No.
All right, so your plans are going to look different, obviously, if you have children, right? It's a lot more to plan for. There's school safety plans. I mean, I like to know about that. I get very involved with my kids and their school safety plans, and just, are they going to contact you if there's an emergency? What if there's, an emergency while they're at school? What does that look like? How can you go pick them up? You have to wait until it's safe. Do they have all the contact information they need? I mean, those are, designating a contact person to get in touch with them if you can't. So I think a lot of the schools are pretty good about that around here. I think they've improved significantly in their school safety planning over the past couple of years, which has been great.
Also making sure that the kids know who their contact people are, because I think my kids are now older and they're, out of school, but I don't think I really thought about that. I always filled out those forms for the school and thought I was done, but I never really thought about making sure that the kids knew that if they can't get a hold of me, they're going to be contacting. I think that maybe they did, but because that was the same person year after year after year, but just making sure you have those conversations with them, that they know who their contact people are if the school can't get a hold of them, so that they're not left wondering.
A friend of mine, she had an emergency and was in the hospital, and she called me and said, "Can you pick up my daughter at school?" And we weren't thinking about it. And I go to school, I'm like, "Your mom called me, your dad's in the hospital, I'm supposed to take you home." And she goes with me and I take her home, and I said to my friend the next day, I said, "That was like the perfect stranger danger thing." Like,
Right.
and she went with me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they would actually let you, because like a lot of times, unless you're an emergency contact.
No, she told the school that they could, but she
okay.
came out because we're normally all out and pick
Yeah.
up. The school knew I was picking her up, but she didn't.
I always had my friend that was, she was a stay-at-home mom and didn't work, and she was pretty accessible, so I always had her. But kids knew her, but if the kids don't know, then it's a different story, and that's why it's really important to have those conversations with them.
So special needs plan is really important. Just to make sure that you have all that health information, because that individual may not have you there to explain all of their needs, right? So especially for like going into a shelter, things like that, to have everything written down of what that individual needs, but also having a go kit available for them with an extra supply of everything that they need. And I know, I'm sure that can be extremely expensive depending on what those
And
needs are.
daunting, because it may change, right? So
Yeah.
whenever medications change, you might want to
Even have it written down what medications they are. You're not going to have it. No doctor's going to give you an extra supply, right? It's going to get. Even have that information down, because if you are in a shelter, many times if there's prescription medication that you are in need of, we're going to be working to get that. The Red Cross is going to be working to get that to make sure that you have the medicine you need. So
Kenny Drugs will give you those little vials. The water
is like an
pill
emergency
vial.
one?
No, they'll give you the little vials that then have a list of all your prescriptions in it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you would have a little.
Yeah, and that's what this plan is for too, like it has a place
Yeah.
for you to put all that information in here, so.
I have a good doctor, and they give me 3 months worth of supply, no matter what, because I got thyroid and high blood pressure.
Right.
Yeah, so
So
you
I
want to make
have
sure,
to
yeah.
have at least, in case like winter comes, I can't get to the store right
That's
off the
great that
bat.
they do that. A lot of
So-
insurance companies won't
Yeah.
allow you to get it
They
beyond
have-
a month
they have
out
to
or
be
whatever it
certain
is. Yeah.
that you could do it.
That is good to know. Let's see. Obviously, we talked about that, prescriptions, medical documents, but also like a personal support network. If you have special needs, it's so important that you have this day to day anyways, just a support network, whether it's community members, if you don't have a family, to be able to check on you if there's an emergency, to make sure that you're okay, because we as first responders don't necessarily know that you're there in that house alone, right? So and there's an emergency, we're not going to be able to get to every single individual. You may not be able to call us and say, "I need help." And so it's just important to have a contact that is checking on you, keeping up, making sure that you're okay, especially during an emergency.
And don't forget the pets. sometimes, when we're making our emergency plan, we're not really thinking about, our cats and dogs and other pets in the house. So you want to make sure that, you're calling ahead before an emergency to know, like, where are the pet friendly hotels, where are the, pet friendly places that you might be able to take your pet, and then how are you going to transport them there? Because we can't always provide for that in an emergency. I know that down in Texas, and they were having some real issues with pets getting separated from their owners and helping. And a big part of what they did in the EOC was actually in the emergency operations, and I was actually trying to unify, pets with their owners.
I think this is like one thing people don't think about, but then it's your family member, right? This pet is your family member, and you can't just go to a shelter with your pet unless it's a pet friendly shelter, which are very, very rare, to be honest, right? So where do you go with your pet? And that's why I said, like for Hurricane Katrina, my dog went into my emergency operations center with me. And my commander said, sorry, you can't have your dog here. You got to go take your dog back home. Luckily, the bridge to go to my home was shut down, and I was able to keep my dog with me because he wouldn't have lived. He was a Chihuahua, and I had 8 foot of water in my home. So, it's like you have to think about these things because they're
not, they're going to be worried about you. They're not going to be worried about your pet so much.
Right.
And so you're going to be wanting to worry about your pet. Because a lot of people won't actually even leave their home.
Mhm.
They won't evacuate because they won't.
because they can't, right?
Because they will not leave
their
their
pet.
pets.
And many people have died from that, so it's just having that plan.
Having a plan in place for a disaster story. Just some other helpful hints, choose an out of town. I think we talked about this. Choose an out of town contact person, though, somebody that is far away from where, far enough away from you that they wouldn't be affected by the exact same event that you would be. That way you can get information, to them. Say that there's other people are trying to contact. They don't know if you're okay. Contacting that person, they know that all they got to do is contact that person, and they know that you've been in contact with that person. Making arrangements through, friends or cultural centers. Practice your plan. Review your plan once a year. Sometimes it's not like a one and done kind of a thing because you may forget. So take
Like
that
you said,
plan out.
medications change.
Things change. Review it. Make sure that there's no updates needed to it. You can, like maybe like we do with our doctor's appointments. You think about it like one time a year. Like change your batteries at the same time every year. During when the clocks change. Kind of do that with your emergency plan as well. That maybe on your birthday or some other significant date that makes sense to you that you review that plan. Take it out, update it. So we get to the fun part now, the get a kit. So this is the step that I think trips a lot of people up. They don't know exactly what to put in their kit, or they think they do, but they may miss something. So we're just going to go through a few things that you can have in your emergency kit. Well, first of all, before we do that, what are some of the things that you think you might need in your emergency?
Oh darn, I already shut it off.
All right.
Water. Yes, water.
Water,
Okay.
alcohol.
Yeah. I don't know if it's in here, but yes, that was first on my list.
Mine would have been chocolate.
I said wine country, that's why I'm here. And
Anything
chocolate.
else?
You could take your dog to any winery.
Exactly, I know, it's great.
Some kind of non-perishable food.
Yes, definitely, I don't know if that's.
And if it's in a can, you better bring a can opener.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
that's very important. People do that. They bring all these cans and then they don't have a can opener. How are you getting
Yeah.
this thing open? Yes, yes. Flashlight, batteries.
Batteries, yep.
Flashlight.
Can opener. There you go.
And these are just some of them. You'll have,
The first aid kit, radio, battery operated, there's your perishable foods.
in your folder,
Yeah.
you have from ready.gov, there is a whole list of different things that you could consider for your emergency kit. So you can check them off there. Some items that you might not even think about, one something that actually happened. I'll just give you a little bit of an anecdote of that Lodi Ovid flood. So one of the houses that water was literally just pouring in, and you can imagine the sound of that, right? The water rushing in, you can't hear. And there was a family that was from Washington DC area. There was a mother and father and their 2 little kids, and the 2 little kids were in their cribs. They were toddlers. And the mother found that, when she realized the water was coming in, found the toddlers actually in water. I'm hearing this all from the homeowner who rented to this family. By the time I got there, their house was completely off their foundation and there was mud all around, and the homeowners were actually there digging out. They were telling me this story, and the people that it happened to were actually already back in Washington DC. But what happened was, all the water was coming in, and apparently there was some sort of like mystery kayaker. We don't even know who he is to this day, but he heard that there was. So first, she scooped the kids out of the cribs and put their life jackets on, and then she got to there was a fireplace hearth, so she got to the higher, they got to the higher part of the house, and they looked at the side, in the side drawer, there just happened to be a whistle. And she took the whistle, and the reason why there was a whistle was because the owners of the home, the wife of the wife owner happened to be a teacher. She was a retired teacher, and that's why she had a whistle. And that whistle just happened to be in that drawer, and they took that whistle and they just were using it, and it alerted the kayaker that people were in the house, and they came, because these were homes that not necessarily were rented, right? I mean, these were like seasonal homes. There might be somebody in there might not be. And he heard her, and he came in, did a whole rope rescue, had to tie himself to a tree in order to be able to, so that he didn't wash away. That's how much water that was coming in at that time, and saved them. And then I heard that he actually went back and he asked the woman, okay, is there anything else, now that you're all safe, is there anything else that you have to have? And she said, well, my wedding ring is next to my bed. And he went in and got it. So, but that's, a whistle. It's not something that we normally think about. I do believe it's on this list.
Yeah.
So things like that, make sure that you pay attention to those kind of items and include them. They're there for a reason. But I think you hit on the big ones. Obviously, we need some way to communicate. Radio. A lot in the Lodi Ovid flood, a lot of their stuff got destroyed. So they didn't have communication. That was our biggest difficulty, was getting information to the people. We were pushing it out to the news outlet. We were doing press releases all day long, and the people were still telling us that they didn't get the information. And it was because, it's their responsibility too. You need to find a way to be able to get the information. We were actually going to go down, and I think we did start just going down and putting placards up, of get assistance here, call this number. Because they weren't getting it from, and I call my office. I felt like everybody down there knew my name and phone number. I think they all still have my personal phone number.
Keep calling her.
Yeah. Yep. But, it's just, you just want to make sure that you're as prepared as you can possibly be, because I'm telling you, in an emergency like that, it really opened up my eyes, because I think I was one of those that, we don't really have that many emergencies around here. And then I lived through that flood. It didn't affect me. It didn't affect my home at all. I was up in Waterloo, nothing. Actually, when that call came in, I was completely blown away, because I wasn't even supposed to be there that day. My son had a procedure scheduled for a bit strong. So I forgot my phone to go to sleep, go to bed with my phone, because I wasn't actually used to that yet. And all of a sudden, I was at 7 a.m. I was realizing that I had been getting phone calls since 5:30. Frantic phone calls, because it was like one, and I was literally like putting on my clothes and just trying to get out the door just fast enough to just get to the county building to spin up the EOC and get everything started before I had to get up to Rochester for my son. So yeah, it was a crazy day. So we always say that, well, actually, Melissa's always told me that emergencies start local and end local, right? And so we want, when you think about that, local, the first local is your family. That's the first local, is you and your family. So you want to be as prepared as you possibly can, because you're just going to be better off in the long run if you are.
I would just say that, we do get ice storms here, which cause power outages. We get them.
That she can have her oxygen.
And if there is a power outage like that, we would likely open an emergency shelter or two within the county. The Red Cross helps us out with that. It would just be something that they would really need to know if there's any special needs, as far as if we're going to be trying to help someone that requires oxygen, they're going to need electricity. So we're already going to have it, but we might not have an outlet available. And so those are things that we would definitely need to know. And the thing that I'm someone that never has cash. In fact, I probably don't have $1 in my purse right now. My father's always said, have cash, have cash, have cash. And I never have cash. And I still probably don't. Power goes out, the ATM doesn't work anymore. It does not work. No cash comes out. And a lot of places won't take a check either. And then you literally have no money. You're dead in the water as far as that goes. You can't even buy gas. You can't buy, the things that you actually need, that water. Cash.
Yes, I think that pretty much.
I worked in the Lodi Firehouse,
Oh, were you
during
there
this-
for that donation? Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And the biggest problem that occurred there is that there was not one designated organization.
I totally agree. I
to
completely agree. And
take care of
I
everything.
remember what that,
There were people from everywhere,
Yeah.
from the churches.
and I couldn't
from
take
there.
control. I couldn't take control of it because I was being told by my county manager that I couldn't take, because that wasn't my domain. But I was trying to help somebody take leadership. And so, yeah, it was the
Yeah.
hardest. Yeah, that part of it. And then also, afterward, there was the unmet needs organization as
Right.
well that had similar, issues. So
And the problem was that people in each group was given different answers to the questions
Yeah.
that the people had who
And-
were affected by
And
it.
that chaos just creates a whole nother emergency, right? That it snowballs and
Yeah.
it's something that we don't want.
yeah.
For sure.
Well,
It is
in the
something that we've been
county,
thinking about and trying to figure out ways to make better next time.
Right.
in the county emergency plan, isn't there, I'm probably gonna call it the wrong thing, but like a tabletop exercise where the county, people that are in charge would meet with various people, and I'm thinking in this area, people are gonna gravitate towards a firehouse, so although everybody would come together and have those discussions ahead of an emergency, and you would know each other by how that you've at least seen them before.
So we
Because
do
I can
that.
tell you, when she showed up,
Mhm.
I was there. None of those firemen knew who she was,
Right.
because she was at a different place for most of it, and they had been dealing with people. Had
Mhm.
they known who she was, she might have been received differently. That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
I think at the time as well, just so you know, she was like several days into that position.
Right.
And that's probably why.
Right.
Right,
And the
yes,
county manager
It
just
was
resigned.
definitely.
Yes.
Remember? It
yes.
was nuts.
So that's,
The
resigned
perfect
just
storm.
after that.
Oh, just, yeah, I
Just
mean, like,
after he had
yeah.
resigned. So that's what happened. It was kind of your perfect storm. It was already
Right.
an emergency.
It was a
So-
storm too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So we had all of that kind of going on. And so no one knew who she was, because if I was down there, trust me, they good, bad, or indifferent. They know me, but they didn't know her because it was only a couple of days.
Right.
So, yeah, and that was the issue.
And then
so-
and then I got to the point where I felt like everybody knew who I was.
Yeah.
Like,
But I think going
including each other.
forward, even if you've been in the people in the county that are in those positions, it's very easy to go to places that are close to your office. It's more difficult to go to a place, and I'm just using Lodi
Yeah.
because we're down in this end.
Right.
But if you have more of a presence and more meetings, and it can be around this topic and get all the people to the table, maybe some of the emotions that were going on, because people were losing their homes and their friends were
Right.
losing their homes. Maybe in the future that would be eliminated and make it easier for you
I
all to come in.
Completely agree.
So
Completely agree.
is
Yeah.
there a
So
county
we have,
emergency
it's
plan?
called a comprehensive emergency management plan. Within that plan, I mean, there's annexes all over the place,
It's a
donation
beast.
management,
It's
this,
huge.
terrorism, so there, but we also have an exercise plan. So we do tabletops, full scale.
Okay, so
We
it's there.
usually do it in our emergency operations center. And what we do is we bring in key players that would, if there's pandemic, we definitely want our health department there, right? But we're also going to need EMS in there too. And we're going to need some fire and some law. Usually those are the key players, but DOT is going to come into play, soil and water. So we bring all of these organizations in to do exercises about if this happens, if there's a flood, if there's an ice storm, if there's this, what are we going to do?
And how does that trickle down to
Locals,
local municipality leadership?
Well, so we do, which we have to set up because that's going to be coming up in a couple of months. We do something called a Tier 3 emergency management training. That is, we conduct it every single year. We obviously missed last year because of COVID, but we'll be doing another one. And we get all of the town supervisors together, along with law, fire, EMS, public health, all the department heads that would play a role during an emergency, which includes human services, right? They have a big role during an emergency. And the Red Cross, and everybody comes into one room and we kind of discuss emergency management and their role in an emergency. It's really important for them to know, the town supervisors, the village mayors, they have a big role in an emergency, and so do the local DPWs. And the whole community really does have this role. And so we kind of talk about what their role is, and we go over mock scenarios and things like that. But as far as them there's also something called NISAC, New York State Association of Counties, where they do a little bit of emergency management training there as well. But primarily for the county, it's the chief elected official. So as far as local towns, supervisors, they get this Tier 3 training, and that's about it. I mean, obviously we want them to be a part of our, comprehensive emergency management plan and buy into that. And that's why it's approved at the county level, because every single board member, which is a supervisor, is involved. Now, village mayors, a lot of times we have to actually, forward them the information to make sure that they receive similar information. But they aren't really a part of our tabletop exercises. We could always bring one or two in, but if you're going to put 50 people in a room with a tabletop exercise, you're honestly not going to get anything accomplished. So it's really about, we can target these areas and do that a little bit more. Honestly, when we were focusing on our exercise plan and creating a multi-year training and exercise plan, this is when everything kind of hit the fan and fell apart. And so and then COVID, and we're kind of just building that back up, because we haven't really been able to meet with anyone. We've been doing a lot of WebExes.
It must be very difficult for you all, because my experience, not just with the recent flooding in Lodi, is that when you live in a smaller community, you're used to just getting in there and doing what needs to be done. You're not asking anybody for permission, and you're taking no hostages, so to speak. That's in quotes. So if the idea is that there's one person that's giving out the information, it could be disseminating to many people, but everybody's getting the same information and correct information in a timely manner. And yet you have a lot of people that don't understand how it can all work together.
Right.
I really don't know how you do it.
Yeah, there was definitely that during that time was a very stressful and chaotic time for me, for sure. And, you know, like Melissa said, it was definitely the perfect storm. I mean, we had a lot of in-house things kind of going on at the time within the county. And unfortunately, it ended up trickling into, you know, the issue down there because I'm getting one thing from him and I'm also stressed about my job because he's basically dangling it in front of me. And there was like, so we had that whole scenario kind of going on at the same time. So I was like, I don't want to do anything to, you know, hurt that. And yet he was telling me one thing and the state's telling me another. And I had politicians calling me and the state's right there and she worked for a Democrat. And there's just all of these things that were going on at the same time. It was,
And you cannot mix
very
politics with
No.
first response and emergencies. You just cannot. You know, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, you know, we're going to your house to save you. We're going to your house to help out.
That was
But yeah, I think there was a little bit at play there.
So I'd have one party calling me to find out what's going on, and then I had another party standing next to me, and they're like, "Well, what do they say?" You know, like it was just I felt like it was in the middle of a game that I didn't know any of the rules. I didn't know any of the rules.
Yes,
So-
that's how we felt.
Yeah, it was definitely a really, really crazy time, but.
Also, people don't know what we do and they don't know our role, right? And so they don't even know
Correct.
sometimes that we're even there, right? Because it is a lot of behind the scenes making things work without being that front, you know, we're the first responders, you see us and we show up at your house. No, you know, it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So they don't know what we do, they don't see what we do. And that's part of it as well. And it's like coordinating all these resources that there were some issues doing because we do need to make sure that we're communicating the same message to every single person and making sure that that isn't being changed along the way.
We
which
have
it
done
does.
an awful lot though, since Melissa's been here as far as like updating the EOC and
That's the emergency operations.
that
Center.
Emergency
Yeah.
Operations Center. We've got computers now. We didn't even have those computers before. So we're trying to find computers. We're
We're updating every single one of our plans. I mean, so emergency management is pretty new. I mean, and it's very new actually to Seneca County. It was, you know, a part-time emergency manager in the 90s. You know, this is a very new job that
And her
we started,
predecessor-
we literally started from the ground up. building
Yeah, and
it,
her
so.
predecessor, God bless him, was really all about fire. And so, and that's why I'm gonna tell you, it's very, I think, you know, since I've been in this position, and I may be a little biased, but just with what I've seen, it's really not a good idea to put emergency management, somebody, and this is what typically has been happening, is that they make them like a retired, you know, police officer, a retired fireman officer. And then what happens is they're very one-minded on that. And so we had fire in there, and so nothing really got done on the emergency management side. So literally when Melissa came into this office, she had to start, like she said, from the ground up. And then we had the different things that happened, and then boom, we're in this emergency. And yeah, we were definitely.
So we're really still
taken off guard.
building, we're building our department. We really are.
We
We're
really
building
are.
it into.
We really are.
I'm
We've
glad
done a
we
lot.
contacted you.
What?
I'm very glad that we contacted you
Yeah.
at this time.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, it's great. It is. And
We love
You know,
being able
and
to get
we-
out into the community.
we really do. I mean, I think it's probably our favorite thing to do is actually to get out. So I felt so bad because here I am, cancel, and it was for real world things.
But
But
I was determined.
you were, and I'm
That's
glad
good.
you
I'm glad. We're thankful for you. We're thankful that there's people like this within the community that care enough to have something like this because it's so important, you know? I saw firsthand that during that Lodi flood, to know how important something like this is, you know, so we're
We
really
have a
thankful for you
question
too.
from Zoom.
Sure.
Yes.
Carol wants to know if you have a list of food pantry contacts on people that you can contact.
We
in
do.
Seneca.
We do.
Because she helps with the Lodi food pantry, so that's probably why she's wondering that.
Yes, we do.
I
We
can
have
do that.
we should have a list of every single food pantry in the county and contact
Want, I
information.
can forward it to you? And then you can
We
give
have
to-
Oh, you
Oh,
do?
you have it?
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
That's been.
She just wanted to make sure you guys had everything.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
Because I think she was going to tell you, we could give you the contacts. if you
Oh.
didn't have them.
Yeah,
Yes,
so we actually reached out to all of our food pantries during, right before COVID. Melissa, that was one of the
And
things that
in
she
the middle of
tasked
it,
me
we were doing it.
with. We
Yeah.
were making sure that they had all, in fact, I actually work for a food pantry now because of that whole relationship that happened during that time.
a couple of years ago, they tried to get everybody, representatives from all of the food pantries to come together and meet. And we did that once.
Oh,
And we learned a lot from all of those people that were there.
We also, our office put out a press release. I don't remember that. Remember we put out a press release. We knew that in our talking with the food pantries, because again, part of our job is to make these connections and to be on the phone with the different organizations that could help. And we were on the phone, I was on the phone with all these food pantries, and we found out, I took it back to Melissa, I'm like, they need donations. But they don't necessarily want food because they need the money for the donations that they need,
Right.
And so she said, well, we could put out a press release. I'm like, that would be awesome. So she
We
a
did,
press
and-
release,
and they-
ended up getting lots of money. Yeah.
It was
So
great.
that's how it.
Because you don't want to do that, right? Because you say, oh, they need baked beans. They're gonna get a million cans of baked beans.
Yes,
So-
you don't say, yeah.
No, you don't want to be too specific.
And this is another, why don't you talk about one of the very first things I learned from you in emergency management was about donations.
You get a
About
lot of
how
stuff you don't
people
need.
donate things that aren't requested. Remember about how
Wow.
and you'd get like 1,000 diapers. And
Yeah, oh yeah.
They really need the
Oh,
money.
yeah,
Money is
yes.
the most.
So I went through like multiple hurricanes because I was down in Biloxi, Mississippi, right on the Gulf. And so I don't know, probably like 6 hurricanes while we were down there. Ugh. One of them was really bad, the rest weren't too terrible. But anytime we requested donations, we need, diapers, we need this, we need that. And it would come in the millions. I mean, people from New York were sending diapers down there. And so they didn't even know what to do with this stuff because they just had so much. And so that's why we talked about had the importance of someone handling donations management, just being in charge of each one of these individual functions. And then, you can have people helping you, but you need one person that is going to be able to manage donations because we can't do that during an emergency. We're busy with other things. And I think that's the problem is sometimes we see that about ourselves. I'll tell you, I'll take on everything. I think I can do it all some days and I'll try. But we also realize that, when you do that, you drop the ball. So we certainly are, as we're updating our plans, we're going to be looking for volunteers that if they're, if there is an emergency, hey, maybe would you like to take on?
And our office is going to get better and better at that. And so we're creating plans all the time to help us out. And I've always got the flood back in the back of my mind. So I wanted to alert you, we're going to have to wrap up here pretty soon because I know that we're.
Yeah, we're a little.
All right, so
we have tomorrow off.
yeah.
So
we're happy.
Veterans Day.
And I'm a veteran, so I'm really happy. So we have something here from FEMA that says, know your alerts and warnings. This is something for you to read. This is a family communication plan. Really, all this information is in this packet here. So this is really all that you need to make your plan. But I thought that this might just be another little helpful thing for you to put on the refrigerator. So I included that as well. And
Tony suggests that maybe we should do an insert to go in the shopper about making a plan.
I love you, Tony.
Maybe Tony will
yeah.
do it.
I don't know.
Alright.
That's Tony says we should do that. And Shelley says a list of emergency freezer space in case of a power outage. I don't know.
Well, I
Places
think
she
what I
can-
was
Oh, he's
Wait.
gone.
What I was suggesting mostly is that this is good and important information. And I don't know how many people are live where you are right now, but I posted this to the Village of Interlaken board, and I was hoping to see at least one other person, but I wonder just how many people are seeing this info and so getting it out. And I'm actually just reiterating what Shelley said earlier.
Yeah, there's 6 people here live, Tony. And
Okay,
we had,
okay.
and then we had another 7 on Zoom. So we had 14. We had a pretty good number, but yes.
so this is the first time that we've used this particular presentation. But we have done, public outreach before, but this is the first time using this particular.
But maybe we could even do another one.
Yeah,
Personal
definitely.
health
So
and
we're
wellness
gonna-
again, and The
I mean,
spring.
you know, and if you tell us what you want to talk about
Right.
related, we can certainly talk about that.
Tony, well, this is being recorded, so we could share it with some of your trustees.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
So I know I missed the beginning, but it seems to me from what I did hear that this is, the more we can get this information out to people in an emergency, that would be very helpful to you because families would already be taking care of that first step.
Absolutely, because we can't take care of everyone, obviously, right? If you take care of yourself, it just lessens the effects of the emergency for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. You're not taking care of yourself, now we've got a bigger emergency.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing, our office is like jam packed during an emergency like that. I mean, during that Lodi flood, we're flooded with emails and phone calls from the state and, you know, FEMA had to come and I had to set up all those appointments, you know, like going around doing damage assessments and yeah, we're just really, really tasked, but obviously, you know, that part is like more at the latter end of it, but in the response time, the more you guys can take care of yourself, the better off you'll be, the better off we'll be to be able to manage, you know, things.
This last flood in October, just a couple weeks ago, I was on medical leave and I basically had an EOC set up in my dining room. And I was up until 2 a.m. and then again at 5 a.m. dealing with that. So I had 3 hours of sleep and she was in there. Because we just are, I mean, it is go, go, go. So we need.
You don't even know, I'm telling you, you don't even know that any time passes. Just from that last one, the October 26th event, I usually leave the office at 4:30, 5 o'clock. And there's some days, I'm gonna tell you, there's some days it's like, well, 4:30 cannot get here fast enough. And it just seems like it tick, tick, tick. But then an emergency happens and 5 to 10 o'clock goes like that. It just feels like no time at all. I feel like I literally turned around and it's 10 o'clock.
The next presentation that you make, especially down here, is it possible for you to get somebody who was involved with, who lived in Lodi and had the emergency and ask them how well they were prepared? And then have the program so that
have
you
an
can
interactive.
discuss
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
what they could have done, what they didn't do, and things like that.
Yeah.
We'd have to look into that. Maybe
Just
through Jeff, we could, maybe
Yeah, and
Jeff would
ask.
know some people or,
Yeah.
or
He's
Trevor
a fire
Sibley or-
fighter. Yeah.
Trevor Sibley might know a lot of people.
Mhm.
Trevor actually was, himself, yeah.
Yeah, he
Brianna
would,
Jordan.
he would probably know.
Yeah, but he would probably know somebody that might do something like that.
Yeah, not
They would agree to
that, but
it.
it will cause people to become,
More,
go to
yeah,
you.
I agree.
become attended.
Yeah.
Because that person who was involved is going to say to their neighbor or anybody, I'm doing such and such.
Right.
You know, if you go to our website, it's in Seneca County under public safety, emergency management. There's so much information on there. I mean, it's how to volunteer, courses you can take, you know, through the Red Cross or other organizations, every single type of emergency and how to prepare, protect, mitigate these disasters. There's so much information on there, emergency shelters, different things like that.
So yeah, so the resources on the back here, we've got like ready.gov, there's a lot of resources on there, the weather.gov, FEMA website, American Red Cross, and then our office as well. And that phone number there gets you directly to me. So, you know, feel free. That's what I'm there for. I'm there to answer questions. So
You had a question?
I have a question. We have the depot still sitting there. There is no reason for they cannot have warehouses made up for emergency, you know, putting blankets and food and dry food or whatever in there, in those buildings for feed and take care of our county if that anything happens. I mean, it was a
Privately owned.
military thing.
But it's
My
private.
father was working at there almost 20 years ago, and he's gone now. He took a civil service test, and he passed the test to be a surgeon in case they had a bomb that hit. And you know, I'm very excited about this stuff.
I will tell you, the Red Cross has emergency trailers that they have, and they strategically place them throughout the state that contain cots, blankets, pillows, water. They do have a lot MREs, meals ready to
Yeah.
eat. So they do have a lot of these resources because they are responsible for setting up emergency shelters. So they're in charge of setting up
I'm
emergency
at like
shelters.
surprised.
No, I agree. I agree. So we did have some, you know, what happens, these things is they have to be, a lot of them have to be climate controlled
Right,
because otherwise they deteriorate. So that's the one issue.
Yeah.
And also it gets old. And so you have to get rid of this stuff.
yeah,
You know, they all have a shelf life and you better have it written down because you don't want to throw away 10,000 MREs, right? You know, if you buy that stuff, and you don't have an emergency, you really need to give it out. So it's just, there's some logistics to that,
right.
you know, and funding issues. And then also storage issues. But I agree with you because, you know, you see what happened. We didn't have that huge medical stockpile that we thought we had with masks and gloves and things
Yeah.
like that. We did at one point, and then, you know, whether they expired or they got rid of them, either way, we didn't have what we thought we had. And that was a real problem. I mean, we got shipments from Homeland Security to our office of PPE that had come from China or wherever that wasn't ineffective.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't even use. And we're trying to give that to nursing homes and it's ineffective. Yeah. So, but I agree with you.
Right now, we're distributing scan bags.
Yeah.
I know
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I saw your
Yeah,
truck.
the
Somebody
county
was
highway has
down
sandbags.
Yep.
Yes. So,
You're blocking the road.
I have 80 of them on my pickup truck in the back of my house. The guy says, you know, they're pretty heavy. And I go, yeah. And I lift up 75-pound bale. Hey, so no big deal.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I think this is.
Thank
great.
you.
That was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, really.
We love to get out of the office. It doesn't matter tonight. It's like, we just, you know.
Everybody
we are-
on Zoom says thank
We
you.
are in what is,
Oh, good.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
We are in what is
I was
kind
gonna
of
say
called a
goodbye.
bombshell.
Bye, everybody. You're gone.
Yeah, just Carol's left.
Meeting.
Bye, Carol.
Tell them we were in this building.
Okay,
Yes, please do that.
I definitely will. I think it's